From 1801 to 1914, repression outweighed reform. Tsar imprisoned critics and sent them into icy exile in Siberia. The Russian Colossus. In the 1800s, Russia was a great world power. Peter and Catherine added lands on the Baltic and Black Seas. Russia was a multinational empire. It was part European and part Asian. The Russian Colossus, which was the giant, its size gave it global interests and influence. Western Europe hated Russia's autocratic government and feared its aims. Peter and Catherine tried westernizing Russia, but it still remained economically undeveloped. Obstacles to progress. In the 1800s, Tsar saw the need to modernize Europe, but resisted reform that would affect absolute rule in any way. So because of that, Russia fell further behind in Western Europe in economic and social development. Land-owning nobles rejected any change that would take away their privileges. Middle class was too small to do anything, and most of the Russian population was serfs bound to land. In the 1700s, serfdom had disappeared in Western Europe, but it survived and spread in Russia. The shame of serfdom. An industry expanded. Masters made their serfs work in factories and took most of their pay. Russian economy would remain backward as long as people had to serve masters. Land-owning nobles had no reason to improve agriculture and didn't care about industry. Three pillars of Russian absolutism. The Enlightenment and French Revolution had almost no effect on Russian autocracy. Alexander I. In 1801, Alexander I inherited the throne. He improved censorship and promoted education and spoke about freeing the serfs. In 1812, when Napoleon invaded Russia, Alexander I had drawn back from reform. He too feared losing supportive nobles. At the Congress of Vienna, he joined conservative powers in opposing liberal and nationalist impulses in Europe. Revolt and repression. In 1825, when Alexander I died, a group of army led an uprising known as the Decembrist Revolt. Nicholas I, the next to the throne, suppressed the Decembrists. But he banned books from Western Europe that spread liberal ideas. Only approved textbooks were allowed in schools and universities. Russians with liberal or revolutionary ideas were judged to be insane, and 1,500 were exiled in Siberia. Orthodoxy, autocracy, and nationalism. Nicholas I embraced pillars of Russian absolutism: orthodoxy, autocracy, and nationalism. Orthodoxy was the strong ties between church and government. Autocracy was the absolute power of the church, and nationalism was respect for Russian traditions and suppression of the non-Russian groups in the empire. Nicholas issued new law code, and he made economic reforms, and he even tried to limit the power of landowners over serfs. There was no way to change the system without angering Russian nobles. Reforms of Alexander II. In 1855, Alexander II came to the throne during the Crimean War. The Crimean War was a war that happened after Russia tried to seize the Ottoman lands along with Danube. War ended in Russian defeat when Britain and France helped Turks, which revealed the country's backwardness. Emancipation. Russian liberals demanded change and students demonstrated for reform. Alexander II agreed to reforms when he was pressed from all sides. In 1861, he issued a royal decree emancipating or freeing the serfs. Former serfs had to buy land they worked for, and many of them were too poor to do that. Also, lands of the peasants were too small to farm efficiently and support a family. Peasants remained poor and unhappiness remained, but some moved to the cities, worked in factories, and built Russian industries. Freeing the serfs boosted the drive for further reforms. Other reforms. Alexander set up a system of local government, also known as the Zemstvos. It was elected assemblies that were made responsible for matters such as road repair, schools, and agriculture. Alexander also introduced legal reforms based on ideas such as trial by jury. He eased censorship and tried to reform the military. He changed the soldiers' term of service, which went from 25 years to 15 years. Brutal discipline was limited. Growth of industry was also encouraged. Movement to liberate women started in Russia. Hundreds of Russian women left their homes and families to study abroad because the university education was denied to them in Russia. Return to reaction. Liberals wanted a constitution and an elected legislature. Radicals influenced by socialist ideas from the West demanded even more revolutionary changes. The Tsar moved away from reform and toward repression. Revolutionary currents. In the 1870s, the message of reform was carried to the peasants. The failure of the Go to the People movement and the renewed government repression made radicals really angry. The People's Will, a revolutionary group, assassinated officials and plotted to kill the Tsar Alexander II. The first attempt failed, and so did the second one, where terrorists threw bombs at Alexander's carriage that failed to kill him, but it killed his guards. The crackdown. Alexander III responded to his father's assassination by bringing back the harsh methods of Nicholas I. To kill all of liberals and revolutionaries, he increased the power of the secret police, restored strict censorship, and exiled critics to Siberia. He relied on his advisor and tutor, Konstantin Pobedonostsev, who rejected all talk of democracy and constitutional government. The Tsar also launched a program of Russification that focused on holding back the cultures of non-Russians within the empire. Alexander insisted on one language, Russian, and one church, the Russian Orthodox Church. Ukrainians, Finns, Armenians, and others suffered persecution and programs. Alexander III also limited the number of Jews allowed to study in universities and revived old laws that forced them to live in certain restricted areas. Official discrimination encouraged violent mob attacks on Jews that were also known as pogroms. Many Jews escaped from Russia. They became refugees or people who fled their homeland to seek safety elsewhere. Building Russian industry. Under Alexander III and his son Nicholas II, Russia finally entered the industrial age. In the 1890s, Count Serge Witte, a finance manager to Nicholas, made economic development a key goal. Witte encouraged railroad building to link iron and coal mines to factories and to transport goods to Russia. He secured foreign capital to invest in transportation and industry, which helped build the Trans-Siberian Railway. Government officials and business leaders encouraged economic growth, but nobles and peasants opposed it. Industrialization also created social problems as peasants gathered in the cities to work in factories. In the slums around the factories, poverty, disease, and discontent multiplied. Radicals wanted support from industrial workers, so at factory gates, they handed out pamphlets that urged the revolutionary ideas of Karl Marx. In the 1890s, Vladimir Ulyanov's older brother had been executed for plotting to kill Alexander III. Like many revolutionaries, he used alias or false name, which was Lenin. In 1971, Lenin took power in a revolution that transformed Russia. The Little Father betrays his people. In 1904, war broke out between Russia and Japan. Nicholas II was Tsar at the time, and he urged people to fight. Russians suffered many humiliating defeats, a peaceful march. Workers struck with demands for shorter hours and better wages. Liberals called for a constitution and reforms to overtake an inefficient, corrupt government. When things had gotten worse, a young Orthodox priest, Father George Gapon, organized a march for Sunday, January 22, 1905. He thought that if Little Father, who was Nicholas II, saw his people were suffering, he would help them. The Bloody Sunday. The Tsar fled the palace in fears of the marches and called in soldiers. In the crowd in front of the place, gunfire rang out and caused chaos. The slaughter marked a turning point for Russians. Bloody Sunday killed the people's trust in the Tsar. The Revolution of 1905. In the months that followed, Bloody Sunday was announced to all of Russia. Nicholas was then forced to announce reforms. In the October Manifesto, he promised freedom of person, conscience, speech, assembly, and union. He agreed to summon a Duma, which was an elected national legislature, and he declared that no law would go into effect without approval of the Duma. Results of the revolution. In 1906, the first Duma met, but the Tsar quickly ended it when leaders criticized the government. Nicholas II then appointed Peter Stolypin as prime minister. Stolypin realized that Russia needed reform, not just repression. To regain peasant support, he introduced moderate land reforms. He strengthened the Zemstvos and improved education before his assassination in 1911. Several more Dumas met during this time period, but new voting laws made sure they were conservative. By 1914, Russia was still an autocracy, simmering with peasant and worker conflict.